Hey everyone, thank you for joining me on Strong Mind, Strong Body. I've been thinking about aging recently, specifically how to age positively, how to see age as an opportunity, not an obstacle, because I never have. To me, age is an opportunity to see another day, to create more experiences, to learn and to live and to get as much out of life as I can. Because after all, if we're lucky, we're all going to grow older, right? So why not see it as a gift, as in the gift of life? So I'm Angie Miller, and I'm here with you today on Strong Mind, Strong Body to have a conversation about aging and how we can shift the narrative from it being a curse to it being a blessing, to us not being invisible, but being invincible. Don't steal that. I think I made that one up. But anyway, here's the reality. Society at large seems to hold some serious stereotypes about aging. And if you weren't aware, it seems like it's kind of a prevalent mindset that aging is not a positive thing, that we're youth obsessed, we're focused on looking young, reversing aging, and turning back time. And so that's what this episode is about aging and that all too prevalent feeling of being invisible. According to the World Health Organization, every second person in the world is believed to hold some sort of ageist attitudes, leading to, and this leads to poor physical and mental health and reduced quality of life for older persons. Because let's face it, if you see stereotypes around you, you live in a world where those stereotypes exist, it does get into your emotional and your physical kind of psyche. Older adults are often seen as a burden. Sometimes, people who are past their prime, people we feel sorry for, or maybe we even fear that because we look at them and we go, oh, I don't ever want to be that old. Like aging might be something we'll catch if we get too close. I remember recently I went on a girls' trip and I was dancing on the dance floor in this kind of predominantly younger group of people in Austin, Texas. And a girlfriend of mine and I decided we hadn't been out dancing in a long time. And due to the sheer volume of people on the dance floor, I ran into a young woman who was kind of right behind me, and she didn't seem very pleased. And so I said to my girlfriend, I think I just shocked that young woman behind me. And my friend said, maybe she's afraid that she'll catch a wrinkle if she gets too close, like they're contagious. And I laughed and I said, hold on, I don't have any wrinkles, do I? But I think the point is that sometimes we almost act like aging is a disease that we might catch, but at the end of the day, isn't it a blessing? Because if with any luck, we're all going to keep getting older. But the first time that I ever really heard an older adult tell me about feeling invisible was when I lived in Chicago. And I taught this most incredible group of seniors once a week in a fitness class. And I was with them for 10 years. I taught this group every Wednesday for 10 years. And I remember Anne, one of the people who took my class, very regularly. She's an author. She's authored over 10 books. She just made such a massive contribution to this world and still does. And I remember her telling me the first time she felt invisible when she walked into a store, almost like nobody paid attention, like she wasn't worth helping. And then recently in here in Charlotte, I got into a conversation with my seniors about it because I teach a senior group fitness class here. And Violetta, who is over 80 and she still skis, mentioned to me that she's had that experience multiple times, and everyone in the room kind of chimed in. It's not like I can't imagine what that would feel like to be invisible as you age. My mom became invisible and negated when she got dementia, and I experienced that all the time. I remember it infuriating me that people wouldn't talk to her. They would talk to me about her like she wasn't in the room. But I attributed that to her condition, not that it made it okay. It still upset me, but I didn't really think of it as a pervasive thing when people age. But it turns out that some people do see aging in general as a condition and not a good one. And according to research, it's more women than men who start to feel this sense of invisibility as they age. And I would like to think that this is changing thanks to the power of the boomers and them showing us what people of a certain age can do. And also, I'd like to think it's changing because let's take a look for a minute at statistics. We are an aging society. So in 2020, about 1 in 6 people in the United States were 65 and older. And in 1920, this proportion was only 1 in 20. So the older population increased from 4.9 million, which is about 4.7% of the total US population in 1920, to 55.8 million, which is almost 17% of the population in 2020. So from 2010 to 2020, just that one decade alone, the 65 plus population experienced its fastest growth rate of any decade since 1880 to 1890, and more than twice as fast as the previous decade. So more than twice as fast as it was between 2000 and 2010. So at the end of the day, the rapid growth has been largely driven, as we know, by aging baby boomers who were born between 1946 and 1964. And those baby boomers started turning 65 in 2011. So, my goal in this episode is for us all to do our part in respecting aging as a positive process, and that you and I and all of us collectively do what we can to combat prejudice, discrimination, stereotyping, AKA ageism against older adults. I hope, with any luck at all, that this discussion between you and I today proves to be kind of thought provoking, and that all of us can do our part to create a more inclusive environment for adults throughout the aging process. Because after all of us are in the process of aging. And if you really think about it, what is an older adult? Because the older I get, the older an older adult becomes. In other words, it's defined differently by us because our perception of old gets older the older we get, right? When you were 5, didn't you think people in their 30s were old? And then when you got to be, 30, all of a sudden people getting older seem to just keep getting further and further out. So if we're lucky, we're going to keep getting older. We're going to want to be respected. We're going to want to be seen and heard and understood and valued, not because we're a certain age, but because we're human, no matter our age. And it's part of the human experience that we all want those things throughout our lives, especially when we've been around long enough to want to share our wisdom and our experience with other people. So again, I'm Angie Miller. This is Strong Mind, Strong Mind, Strong Body. And I want to talk to you today about aging and this feeling of invisibility and how we can shift the narrative and how you and I and all of us collectively can do our part to help older adults feel valued in our society. So what does it mean exactly when I say that older adults feel invisible? I'm going to start with that. And trust me, it does come at a cost. But, it comes at a cost economically. It also comes at a psychological cost, but that's for a future episode. But today I'm going to talk about our role, again, what we can do to make a difference and how to shift the narrative. So what is ageism? Well, it's kind of a prejudice or a discrimination on the grounds of a person's age. It's also stereotyping based on age, and it can make adults, as they get older, feel invisible. So, feeling invisible, the way that my older adult friends and clients have described to me, is that they feel like they're not seen anymore. They're negated or they're dismissed. And that's something none of us want to feel. Ageism exists in the workplace, it exists in healthcare, it exists in popular culture, and really it's rampant in the media. In 2018, ARP did a survey, and 72% of people 50 and older said that when adults in this age group are shown in advertising, they're more likely to be portrayed negatively than those who are under 50. But it's changing, I hope, right? Because as the boomers take over and the narrative shifts, things like this happen. In 2017, Allure magazine stopped using the term anti-aging because its editor-in-chief, Michelle Lee, said that the term subtly reinforces the message that aging is a condition that we have to battle. And then after Allure's announcement, ARP's CEO author, the Joanne Jenkins, who's the author of Disrupt Aging, that's the next book on my to do or to buy list, said her group's publication would no longer use the term anti aging either. But think about it. Think about the plethora of anti aging products there are in the market and the plethora of anti aging, everything from cosmetics to you name it. It seems to be out there. So, Yale University professor of public health and psychology, her name is Becca Levy. I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. Could be Levi. She's author of the book Breaking the Age Code. She calls ageism the silent epidemic. But she says that statistically, only 25% of aging health longevity is determined by our genes, but 75% is driven by our environmental and psychological factors, which, as we know, most of which we can control. So, what can you and I do to combat ageism and the effects on older adults as they age? What can we do to create this inclusive environment that is respectful for adults of all age? I have some tips. I hope you will chat in if you want to, or if you watch this later or listen later, send me a message, send me an email, write to me on YouTube, wherever you have a chance, and share your thoughts about aging, because you and I, every day, we're just getting one day older, which is a good thing. So here's the deal. Rebecca Levy in her book says she uses the ABC method as a way to bolster age positive beliefs. And I'm going to start with these, and then I'm going to give you some other tips to shift the narrative and build this age positive mindset. All right. So she says that awareness is key. She says she asks people, what are the first 5 words or phrases that come to mind when you think of an older person? And if you're listening to this or watching this, I hope you'll take a pause and ask yourself, what are the first 5 words or phrases? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it, what is it? And then she suggests that you ask yourself, once you notice the words or phrases that come to your mind, then ask yourself, how many are positive? And if most of them are negative, or even one of them is negative, can you turn the negatives into a positive? All right. So then B, so the ABC method, the B is blame. Place blame where it's due. Are you really seeing lapses in your memory because you're getting older? Or do you really think grandma is seeing lapses in her memory because she's getting older? Or is it just a long held belief that when people get older, they're not going to remember very well? Levy says that health and memory issues might be the result of negative beliefs about aging. Like, of course, this is supposed to happen. But what if it's more of a stereotype or a long held societal belief versus an actual reality? So the C in the ABC method is challenging negative beliefs about aging and taking action against ageism and ageist beliefs. So she suggests that you pay attention to legislation that affects this population, because the reality is it's going to affect you someday. It's going to affect your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, your aunts, your uncles, your clients. So pay attention to the types of legislation that are affecting older adults. So here's some other tips that I have besides Levy's ABC method. Number 2, I suggest that we advocate for older adults in our network and beyond. So whether that's family, clients, or friends, if you notice people dismissing them, whether it's a doctor or another provider, encourage them to see another provider. I remember going with my mom to the doctor, and when I first noticed her becoming invisible, and the doctor would walk in the room, barely acknowledge her, if he or she acknowledged her at all, and then start talking to me. And every time I would have the same reaction, I would say, can we step outside for a minute? And I would say, do you know one of the best ways to agitate a person with dementia is to negate them or pretend like they're not in the room and to talk over them? or to talk about them like they're invisible. And I said, talk to my mom, ask her a question, whatever you need to ask her. If she needs help filling in the blanks, I will fill in, but I really need you to respect her as a human with full autonomy while she's still here walking on this earth. So encourage them to see another provider if they're noticing it. Or if you notice that they have friends who bring them down by focusing on age and illness, talk to them about boundaries and what it might be like if they set healthier boundaries so they can hang out with more like minded friends. And then I think even better, if you're going to advocate for those people who are, aging, if you will, in your network, which is all of us, but who are older than you, remind them how meaningful you are to them or how meaningful they are to you, excuse me. We all love to be reminded that we matter and that we make a difference to others. And I think that as we age, we can't hear it enough. Tell them what you admire about them, what you respect about them, what you've learned from them, and how much value they add to your life and to the world around them. All of us need to hear those things. And adults, I think, through the aging process, just don't hear it enough. So, my third tip is create intergenerational ties. So, in other words, build relationships with older adults outside of your network. If you don't work with clients in this age group, consider the possibility of working with them. Maybe if you're not going to train clients or work with them as a wellness coach, what about volunteering? What about teaching your skills in free workshops or delivering meals or whatever way you can help? Intergenerational relationships help older adults stay in touch with younger populations. It makes them feel supported and valued. And then they remind us that of all the benefits of aging. And we help them learn and stay connected and build community throughout. So, again, I'm Angie Miller. This is Strong Mind, Strong Body. And I'm talking about how we can kind of get rid of this narrative about becoming invisible as we age, this ageism that exists in our society that says as we get older, we don't hold as much value. Because my contention is as we get older, we hold even more value. So, number four would be help older adults build confidence in any way you can. Remember that confidence at any age breaks barriers. It makes you feel invincible versus invisible. And again, remind them of their worth, teach them skills, ask them to tell you stories about their lives and what they've learned. I have to tell you that now that my mom is gone, if I have any regrets, it's that I didn't ask her to tell me more stories and I didn't record those stories, either her telling them to me or write them down so that they would live on throughout history. Boost them up by sharing your time and your joy. Try to get them involved. Try to encourage them and help them find ways they can build bigger communities, so that they have kind of become more, stay more purpose driven, and they always get to experience this sense that they belong to something bigger than themselves so that they don't feel like they're getting invisible. So, my fifth tip, if we want to reverse ageism and we want to help older adults feel visible and invincible, is to watch your words and your volume when you're around them. So, I have three parts to this. Number one, I find that many people talk down to older adults, like they need to slow their speech to ensure that the adult understands, like they're talking to a young child. And I think that this can be so derogatory and disrespectful to assume. Also, some people keep conversations very superficial because they think that adults of a certain age won't understand. But the reality is that anyone who's older than us has more lived experience than we do. And lived experience comes with more wisdom and more knowledge, right? And therefore, not just lived experience, but generally a lower level of judgment. I find that my older adults are the least likely to judge because they've been there, done that, seen so many things that they don't feel like they're in any position to judge. They're often the best listeners. So try not to understand that they don't understand trends or technology, because at the end of the day, have you seen some of them out there on social media? I follow quite a few of them on Instagram, quite a few women who are like fashion bloggers in their 60s and 70s who or just write about aging in general. And it absolutely fascinates me to see them embrace aging and to see it as a powerful thing and to bring women into the fold and say, hey, you know what? You're not discarded as you get older. You are still valuable. So, my second part to watch your words and your volume is that some people talk loud, assuming that the older adult can't hear them. So, unless that individual asks you to speak up or to slow down, try not to assume. Try to just talk to them the way you talk to everyone else. And my third part is that some people use ageist language. As a matter of fact, I'm going to guess that all of us use ageist language without realizing it. I know I have. Okay. So be aware and be vigilant to try not to use words or phrases that stereotype or categorize. Some of them are like anti aging or how to look younger. Or my all time favorite, not so much, is you look great for your age. I've heard that one before. It does not make me love you. I'll tell you that. Okay. How about just you look great and you leave out age and you don't have to categorize people? So, or people will say things like, despite her age, it's amazing what she can do. She could do a handstand. How about she could do a handstand? So, last but not least, my sixth tip in helping older adults feel invincible and not invisible and helping to kind of get rid of ageist stereotypes is to speak up. Not your volume, but speak up against those who use ageist remarks and language, against those who take advantage of older adults or make derogatory remarks, against those who make assumptions. Advocate, educate, and have conscious dialogue and healthy conversations about aging. Because to me, aging is not a death sentence, it's an opportunity to live. So, my last thought to you would be consider the adults in your life who are older than you and in the aging process mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, aunts, uncles, whoever it might be. Ask yourself, how do you want society to treat them? And then ask yourself, how do you want society to treat you someday? I really believe we're change makers out there. Our heart is in the right place. We're people out there who are coaching and doing corrective exercise, personal training, trying to make a difference. So let's start to make that difference from the inside out and start to help older adults feel seen and valued and heard. So I'm Angie Miller. I'm so glad you joined me today. I hope you'll share your thoughts and I look forward to seeing you next week.